Welcome to our deep dive into all things Scotland. Looks like you're really fascinated by the Scottish Highlands.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And who wouldn't be? Your sources are a mix of travel tips
hmm
and cultural insights.
Yeah, definitely.
So whether you're planning a trip or just dreaming of one,
Right.
we've got you covered.
We've got it all.
I love it. I especially love that your materials really highlight the Highlands as the must-see destination in Scotland.
Yeah, I mean, they're using some pretty enticing language, right?
Oh, for sure.
Majestic, wild, and wonderful.
Yeah.
You can't help but feel the romantic appeal, right?
Absolutely.
As you want to just go explore.
Definitely. So why are the Highlands such a draw? What makes them so special?
Well, it's more than just a beautiful backdrop, right? I mean, the Highlands are geographically and culturally distinct from the lowlands, known for, those rugged mountains,
Yeah,
lochs, that's lakes for you non-Scots out there,
love that.
and a really strong Gaelic heritage.
Okay, interesting.
So it's like a whole different world up there.
Yeah, I love it.
You really feel that distinction.
So one article suggests a 3-day itinerary for first-timers,
Okay.
and it really emphasizes immersing yourself in the landscape.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, slow travel and these authentic experiences are definitely trending right now, right?
Yeah.
It's not so much about just ticking off a list of sites anymore.
Mhm.
It's about actually connecting with the place on a deeper level, right?
For sure.
Slowing down and really taking it all in.
And speaking of connecting with a place, we can't talk about Scotland without mentioning, you know,
Ugh.
whiskey.
Of course.
And guess what? Ghost distilleries are making a comeback.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Yeah,
This has got to be fascinating for whiskey enthusiasts.
I would imagine so.
What exactly is a ghost distillery, and why are they suddenly reappearing?
Okay, so a ghost distillery is one that was shut down sometimes decades ago,
Yeah.
often due to economic factors, right?
Right?
But now we're seeing this kind of resurgence, this comeback.
Uh-huh.
And it might point to, a shift in what people want, like in consumer tastes.
Yeah?
Maybe people are looking for something more unique, more traditionally made spirits.
I could see that.
Maybe even a connection to the past.
Yeah.
Imagine sipping a whiskey that's been resurrected after decades of silence.
Wow. What a thought.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Speaking of history, Glasgow is hosting the 2026 Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
That's quite an honor.
Yeah, it is.
And on a totally different note, a rare Beatrix Potter 50-pence coin recently sold for a whopping £18,000.
Wow, that's incredible.
I know. What is up with that?
So the Commonwealth Games, if you're not familiar, they're a multi-sport event held every 4 years, and it's for countries that were once part of the British Empire.
Okay.
So hosting it is a big deal for Glasgow, right, and for
Yeah.
Scotland as a whole.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, as for the coin, well, that's just a testament to the world of numismatics, coin collecting, and how, these seemingly ordinary objects can hold incredible value,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're connected to, beloved cultural figures like Beatrix Potter.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So we've got whiskey sporting events,
Yeah.
rare coins.
Mm-hmm.
They're all pretty different,
They are.
but they're somehow all part of understanding Scotland. I
Absolutely.
love that.
It's like piecing together a puzzle, right? Each piece, whether it's a distillery, a sporting event, a
Right.
rare coin, all these things add to the bigger picture of Scottish culture.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
While most of the focus has been on the Highlands, there's also some information about Edinburgh.
Right.
It's described as steeped in history and culture.
Right.
It seems pretty accurate, especially from the pictures I've seen.
It is. Edinburgh is one of those cities where history is just visible everywhere you look.
Okay.
You've got, Edinburgh Castle. Right.
The Royal Mile, which is a historic street connecting the castle to the Palace of Holyrood House.
Wow.
And architecturally, it's stunning.
Yeah.
You've got this mix of medieval and Georgian architecture
Oh, wow.
that really showcases its kind of layered past.
Okay.
It's really interesting.
Now, here's something that really caught my eye. A dream job on a scenic Scottish island with a salary of nearly £60,000.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good.
What kind of job could that possibly be?
I don't know. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's fun to speculate, right?
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen so far, I mean, it could be something in tourism,
Right.
like maybe managing a historical site.
Yeah.
Or leading outdoor adventures, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe it's related to some kind of conservation efforts on the islands.
Or maybe they need someone to taste test all those whiskeys being produced.
Now there's a dream job. It could also be, something connected to a resurgence of traditional crafts or industries
Okay.
like weaving, pottery, sustainable farming, things like that.
I love the idea of these skills making a comeback. It
Yeah.
kind of speaks to that desire for authenticity that we were talking about earlier.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
And the fact that it's on a scenic Scottish island just adds to the appeal, doesn't it?
absolutely. Speaking of appealing things, there's a treacle scone recipe in one of your sources that sounds amazing.
Oh, nice.
And did you see the documentary about the Highlands, narrated by Ewan McGregor, Cooey?
No, I haven't seen that
You
one.
gotta check it out.
I'll have to add it to my list.
It looks so good.
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
You're right. Food and film are powerful ways to experience a culture, even from afar.
Definitely.
Trying a local recipe like those treacle scones or watching a documentary,
Yeah,
it can just deepen your understanding of a place and its people.
absolutely. It's like a window into another world.
It is. Speaking of the Highlands, there's also mention of the Kilt Rock waterfall on the Isle of Skye.
Oh, yeah, that's a beautiful spot. Have you seen it?
It's on my list. I haven't been yet. But the cliffs are supposed to resemble a pleated kilt with the waterfall cascading down to the sea.
Wow.
It sounds incredible.
This deep dive is honestly making me want to book a trip immediately.
I know.
The Highlands seem to have it all.
They do.
Dramatic scenery, fascinating history, and a really unique culture.
It's definitely a place that captures the imagination.
For sure.
And what we've explored so far is really just the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much more to uncover.
So before we move on to other aspects of Scotland,
Yeah.
what's resonated with you most from what we've discussed about the Highlands?
What really strikes me is how much there is to discover beyond the surface. You've got those stunning landscapes, but there are also layers of history,
Yeah.
culture, and tradition woven into every corner of the Highlands.
Right.
It's not just a pretty picture, it's a place that really invites you to explore and connect with it on multiple levels.
That's such a good point. Okay, well, let's take a quick break and then we'll dive into all those other aspects.
Sounds good. It's like those ghost distilleries we were talking
Yeah.
about.
They're not just about the whiskey. They're about bringing a piece of history back to life.
Exactly.
It's pretty cool. It makes you wonder what other traditions or stories are waiting to be rediscovered.
Well, the upcoming Commonwealth Games in Glasgow definitely fit that theme, right? It's a chance for Scotland to really showcase its modern dynamic side while still honoring its heritage.
Yeah, it's a fascinating blend of old and new, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like ancient castles and whiskey traditions existing alongside a thriving modern city hosting a global event. It's pretty cool.
It is.
And speaking of honoring heritage, remember that rare Beatrix Potter coin we mentioned?
Oh, yeah.
It's a testament to the enduring power of nostalgia and the value we place on objects that connect us to the past.
Right.
It's pretty wild.
It is.
It's amazing how a simple coin
Yeah.
can spark those feelings.
Yep.
It makes you wonder what other treasures are hidden away, waiting to be unearthed.
Speaking of hidden treasures, let's kind of circle back to Edinburgh.
Okay.
You mentioned the contrast between, the old town and the new town. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. I remember reading about it, but I'd love to hear you elaborate on what makes each area so distinct.
Sure. So picture this, okay? The old town, with its narrow, winding streets and medieval buildings. It's like stepping back in time.
Yeah.
It's all clustered around Edinburgh Castle, which sits high above the city.
It sounds incredibly atmospheric.
It is. You can practically feel the weight of history
Yeah.
as you walk through those cobblestone lanes. And then, in stark contrast, you have the new town,
Yeah.
which was developed in the 18th century.
So new is relative.
Exactly.
Mm.
But the new town features this elegant Georgian architecture, wide streets, and grand squares.
Nice.
It was designed to be a more modern and spacious living area compared to the cramped conditions of the old town.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a big change.
It's incredible how you can see those different historical periods
Yeah.
reflected in the city's architecture.
Right. And what makes Edinburgh even more interesting is that the old town and the new town are seamlessly connected.
Really?
You can wander from medieval closes to grand avenues in minutes.
Wow.
Experiencing centuries of history in a single stroll. It's pretty amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that dream job on the Scottish island for a sec. What kind of person do you think would be drawn to a job like that?
I think it would appeal to someone who, really values tranquility
Okay.
and natural beauty. Someone
Yeah.
who, thrives in a close-knit community, but doesn't mind a bit of solitude.
Okay.
Someone who wants a simpler pace of life,
Right.
a chance to escape the mainland
Yeah.
and really connect with nature on a deeper level.
It does sound idyllic. It makes you think about what your own, dream job in Scotland would be.
That's a great question. What about you? What aspects of Scottish culture or landscape would you connect with most? What would your ideal Scottish life look like?
I'm already picturing myself in a cozy cottage
Uh-huh.
overlooking the sea,
Yeah.
with maybe some sheep nearby.
Don't forget a warm peat fire and a good book.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah. Now, let's bring our focus back to the Highlands for a bit.
Okay.
We've talked about the landscape and the whiskey, but what about the people?
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the Highlanders and their culture?
I'm ready to dive deeper into that.
Okay. Well, the Highlanders are known for their strong sense of community,
Okay.
their deep connection to their heritage,
Uh-huh.
and their love of music, storytelling, and a good sealid.
A sealid.
Yeah, it's a traditional Gaelic social gathering with music and dancing and storytelling. Think of it as a big party where
Right.
everyone joins in the fun, regardless of their, dancing skills.
It sounds amazing. I'm definitely adding a tenda sealid to my list.
You should. You mentioned some of the, must-see sites of the Highlands,
Mm-hmm.
but can you paint a more detailed picture? What are some of the places that really stand out?
Okay, so you have Glencoe,
Yes.
which is a dramatic valley known for its, towering mountains and haunting beauty.
It's very dramatic.
And then there's, of course, Loch Ness,
Oh, of course.
home to the legendary Nessie.
Right.
Gotta see if we can spot her.
You never know.
I'm sensing a theme here. Lots of haunting beauty.
It's true. The Highlands have this dramatic, almost mystical quality to them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the Isle of Skye
Yes.
with its, otherworldly landscapes,
Mm-hmm.
dramatic cliffs, and that iconic Kilt Rock waterfall you mentioned.
It sounds like a photographer's dream.
It is. But, beyond those, iconic landmarks,
Uh-huh.
the real beauty of the Highlands is in its untamed nature, right?
Yeah.
You can hike through ancient forests, wander along deserted beaches,
That sounds amazing.
or just sit by a loch and, soak it all in.
It does sound pretty magical.
It
It
is.
sounds like the perfect escape from, the everyday world.
It really is. The Highlands have a way of, slowing you down,
Yeah.
making you appreciate the simple things
Mhm.
and reconnect with nature.
We've talked about the visual appeal of the Highlands, but what about the sounds?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of, music
Uh.
would you associate with this region?
Think of the, haunting melodies of bagpipes, right?
Yeah.
And the lively tunes of fiddles and accordions. Highland music has this raw energy that
Mhm.
reflects, the landscape and the spirit of the people.
It sounds incredible.
There's also a rich tradition of Gaelic singing, which
Hmm.
is, all about evoking the history, the landscape, and the stories of the Highlands.
So cool. Okay, we've talked about the scenery,
Mm-hmm.
the whiskey,
Right.
the music.
Right.
What about the food?
Yeah.
We can't leave that out.
Oh, you're right. Scottish cuisine is known for its hearty and flavorful dishes. You've got to try haggis, of course, the national dish.
Haggis. That's the one with
Yeah.
sheeps. Well, let's just say it's an adventure for the palate.
It might sound intimidating,
Yeah.
but it's surprisingly delicious.
Okay.
And don't forget the seafood.
Oh, right.
Scotland has some incredible fresh salmon, oysters, mussels, all kinds of delicious catches of the day.
My mouth is watering already.
Yeah.
You also mentioned a documentary narrated by Ewan McGregor called Cooey.
Yeah.
What insights does it offer into the Highlands?
Cooey is a beautiful film that tells the story of a crofter
Okay.
and his cow. It's a very simple story,
Mm-hmm.
but it speaks volumes about the connection between people and the land in the Highlands.
It sounds like a must-watch for anyone who wants to, understand the heart and soul of the region,
I think so.
for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Kilt Rock waterfall on the Isle of Skye for a minute.
Yeah.
What makes it so captivating?
Kilt Rock is a truly breathtaking sight. I mean, the cliffs themselves are incredible
Yeah.
with those vertical columns that look like the pleats of a kilt.
Right.
And then you have this stunning waterfall
Mm-hmm.
cascading over the edge into the sea. It's just spectacular.
That sounds almost surreal.
It really is. Standing there, taking in the vastness of the ocean and the power of that waterfall.
Yeah.
It's a very humbling experience.
I can imagine. This deep dive has been incredible.
It
We've
has.
explored like the rugged landscapes,
Yeah.
the haunting music, the
Mm.
warm hospitality, the
Mhm.
delicious cuisine. I'm ready to pack my bags.
I know, right? But before you book that flight, what's the like one takeaway you want to remember about Scotland?
That's a great question. I think what stands out to me most is the sense of like history and tradition that's
Mhm.
woven into every aspect of Scottish culture.
Right.
You know, from the castles and the whiskey to the music and the food,
Yeah.
it feels like a place where the past is like very much alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that connection to the past is almost experiencing a revival. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Whether those ghost distilleries,
Yeah.
the interest in like traditional crafts,
Right.
even that Beatrix Potter coin selling for a small fortune.
Yeah.
It's like people are rediscovering the value of history and heritage.
I think you're right. There's this like sense of seeking authenticity,
Hmm.
not just in travel, but in all aspects of life.
Yeah, for sure. You know, that dream job on the Scottish island keeps coming back to my mind.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like the perfect embodiment of that idea,
Right.
you know, a chance to escape the ordinary and like reconnect with a simpler way of life.
It's definitely appealing. I mean, imagine waking up to the sound of the sea,
Yeah.
working with your hands,
Mm,
being part of a close-knit community.
right.
It speaks to this like longing for something more meaningful than just the daily grind.
Yeah, totally. And maybe it even involves learning a traditional skill like weaving or
Yeah.
pottery. I love that idea of keeping those crafts alive.
Yeah, it ties into that trend of slow travel and authentic experiences we talked about earlier, right? It's
Hmm.
about appreciating the process, the craftsmanship, that connection to a place and its people.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Scotland, what are you like taking away from all of this? What's resonating with you most?
You know, for me, it's the reminder that adventure can be found anywhere.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be this grand expedition to, the other side of the world.
Right.
Sometimes the most extraordinary experiences are right in front of us, waiting to be discovered.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether it's exploring a new city, learning a new skill, or simply taking the time to, appreciate the beauty of nature,
Hmm.
there's always something new to learn and experience.
I love that perspective, and it definitely applies to Scotland. You know,
Yeah,
we've only like scratched the surface of what
obviously.
this country has to offer.
Exactly. We've explored the Highlands,
Hmm.
touched on Edinburgh,
Yeah.
even dreamed about island life.
Right.
But there's so much more to discover.
Yeah.
Think about the history, the music, the literature, the food.
Hmm.
Each one is like a world unto itself.
That's almost overwhelming in a good way.
Huh.
I'm already planning my next deep dive into Scotland.
Oh, I bet.
So much to uncover.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into Scotland,
Yeah.
let's leave our listener with a question to ponder.
Okay, I like it.
If you could choose one aspect of Scottish culture or history to explore further, what would it be?
Ooh, good question.
Would you delve into the world of whiskey distilling,
That's a good one.
trace your ancestry back to the Highland clans,
Okay.
or perhaps embark on a literary pilgrimage following in the footsteps of Robert Burns or Sir Walter Scott?
There's so much to choose from, and that's the beauty of it.
It is.
Scotland is a country that invites you to like keep exploring, to keep learning,
Yeah.
keep discovering.
So go ahead and embrace your inner explorer. Seek out those authentic connections and never stop discovering the magic that the world, and especially Scotland, has to offer.
Well said. Until next time, happy travels.